Hello, members. Tom Morrison here. Welcome to Heat Treat Tuesday. We're glad you're here and hope things are going well in your land. Today we have Mr. Tim Owen. Tim, say hi to everybody.
Hey, everybody.
So, as you always know, when you visit the Heat Treat Tuesday webcast, you look down to should be your right. It says say hello. At the bottom, it says say something nice. You can, what I'd like actually to do, if you could type in, I'm going to type it in here. Where are you listening from? Put your city, state in there. We're listening from Jacksonville, Florida. Put your city and state so we can see where everybody's listening from. But you can type in you're listening to this, you can type in any question you want for Tim as we're going along and talking about healthcare. Healthcare has become a crazy time in our life right now. And you just watch TV. There is so much reality. There's so much fake. And today, we hope to dispel all those myths with having Tim here, who's very active. So Tim, why don't you just share with everybody? I've known you for quite a while. You have dealt with some MTI members. You have spoken at some of MTI's conferences. Share with everyone a little bit of your background and your activity in the whole state and national scope of healthcare.
Sure. First of all, probably about, in 2005, the Affordable Care Act, which was originally known as the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, and then they shortened it to the ACA, Affordable Care Act, happened in 2010. Well, probably about 2005 or 2006, I was fortunate enough to be selected to be involved in the committees that would present to the congressional committees that actually approved healthcare reform. There was very interesting learning experience. In fact, even during that time, I thought about going into, if I said, Tim, you should go into and be some form of legislator. And oh my gosh, that was way bigger than I was and took way too much money, too much time. And I just did. It probably would have cost me everything to do that, but I chose not to do that. However, what I was able to do was to present the alternative plan to the main congressional committees. There were 4 of them. One was sort of a kingpin, and they kind of controlled or influenced the other ones to actually approve healthcare reform. Obviously, they did not choose our proposal. There were 60 of us in the country that presented. I was one of the top 5 presenters to that. Learned an awful lot and did that for many, many years, and all the way up to the point of Affordable Care Act getting approved and becoming law. After that, I probably was involved nationally on the level and still am. Probably twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year, we'll go up. And right now, the drama is beginning to build again. And on a local level, I've been the president of the Association of Health Underwriters. I know in Jacksonville, Florida, and most of Florida, I know most of the agents that are the true mover shakers, the bigger houses, the people that do a lot of health insurance. I have 30 years of experience in the health insurance market. I've actually my very first job was running an HMO, and that was back in 1987. And was running an HMO owned by St. Vincent's and Memorial Hospital in Jacksonville. So that was kind of what I cut my teeth on, is learning how to run an insurance company. It was quite the experience.
So it sounds like you've had a lot of different angles you've pulled from in your experience to really dive into this topic. So let's dive into it. So the politicians out there, Tim, Obama said it, Donald Trump saying it, everybody's been saying it for the last 20 years. We're going to lower your healthcare costs by passing this legislation. And I know bills are astronomical. I'm over 50. I get bills every year in the fourth quarter stuff. And it's like they want to cut on me every year. And I'm wondering when's the end? But can effective legislation, can we actually truly pay less next year and the year after that than we are today? I kind of think that it's more as we're going to stop the rate of growth, because you can never pay less when you're continuing to see rises in the actual cost of anything. So can they actually get us to pay less in the future than we are today?
It's a good question. I'd be curious of, we can't run this poll real quick, but I'd be curious of people who hear that on the news, even right now, if you were to ask yourself the question, do you think that the U.S. government can enact a law that would force a health insurance company, a Blue Cross Blue Shield, a United, an Aetna, a Cigna, a Humana, whoever the national carrier is, do you believe they can enact a law that would actually lower premiums? What they actually do is they enforce laws that surround the cost of health care, but the true driver of health care is, or health insurance is health care. One of the mottos that we say is health insurance is expensive because health care is expensive, not the other way around. So the key, if you go have a baby, that's health care. If you're diagnosed with cancer, that's health care. We had a gentleman in our office that had a preemie baby. She was 2 months early. He is just now starting to get the bills in on that. And his first bill, which was the hospital physician and surgical unit, $350,000 to have a preemie baby.
And you know, if I was him, what I'd be saying? I'd be saying this right here. Lucky me, I got it. So no, go ahead. Preemie baby.
Well, what's interesting, here's an interesting note. And if you want to save some money and to do some shopping, if you've not heard of about the various types of policies that you can get overseas and global care. My wife's father, my father-in-law, had a bad back. He had 3 discs that were degenerative. And in the United States, they put a morphine pump right in his stomach. And it ran a line all the way around to this lower part of his back to relieve his pain. Well, soon he sort of became addicted to that morphine and various other things. And this is his life testimony. I'm not sharing anything private here. However, that was kind of how we handled his back pain, and there was really no fix for it. The type of disc, the degenerative disc that he had. Right. So he finally peaks out in pain and notices on the Discovery Channel a physician in Germany that did a surgery that replaced those discs with titanium discs. He called the surgeon up in Germany. We would not do that surgery on the old, he was about 65 years old at the time. On older seniors here, it was still experimental. So this physician in Germany had done this about 400 times. So he packs his wife up on a plane, flies to the hospital, 2 weeks. He was in Germany. Total cost paid out of his pocket was $25,000. And wow. He was 3/4 of an inch taller. That's including removing his morphine pump and fixing all of that void that he had in his stomach. Right. And it was better coverage, better service, better surgery for a fraction of frankly, what it would cost in the United States. Now, I'm not down on the United States healthcare. I love it. But health insurance is expensive because health care is expensive. So do you have any idea what that might have cost in the United States? Probably about $500,000. Yeah, matter of fact, we did a little, we ran that through an insurance company. We wanted to price it out, and it was about $500,000 to do that surgery.
That's great.
So that's really the driver of the cost of your health insurance. Health insurance premiums for a family, as everybody knows, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, is about the cost of a mortgage. That's for a family. Yeah. The average in Florida, the average rate that we're seeing for employees are running around $400, $450 for an employee. And that's with an average age of about 38 to 42 years old. So if you have a demographics in your company that's older than that, you may be paying more than $400 or $450.
So let me ask you something. So I want to get back to you. So is it safe to say for the people listening that when they hear people talk about lowering the cost of health and health care, they should not equate that to, oh, my health insurance premiums when this is enacted is going to be lower next year or the year after that. It's going to go up lower potentially over the years because there's going to be better cost containment features in it?
Well, again, the government really can't control that either. So I'm going to answer your question with a new piece of legislation that was posted on July the 20th, just a few days ago. And that legislation, in fact, it's so new, I have to kind of even look at a recap, so bear with me as I do that. But it's under the House Representative Bill 1628. You should Google this. And by the way, I have kind of a white paper, a recap on it. So this is the government's solution to, and I'm not down on government, but this is their solution. This is fresh. This is right off the press. This is July the 20th. This is the Better Care Reconciliation Act. I don't even know if you've heard about it yet. But it did replace the American Health Care Act. In fact, we did kind of a card on that. And then on the back of it, we did association health plans. I like to talk about that a little bit if we can before we go. But this American Health Care Act that President Trump, that's kind of a cool picture of him, did, this is gone. This is dead. So what has replaced this is the Better Care Reconciliation Act. Mike Enzi, he's the senator in Wyoming. He submitted a recap of this piece of legislation. And let me tell you the solution for lowering your premiums. This if you have a pad and pencil, it's worth jotting a few of these things down. So it's 22 pages long, the piece of legislation. That's nice, 22 pages, beats 2,200 of the Affordable Care Act. It does repeal the penalties on the employer and the employee.
Wow, okay.
Now think about that for a moment when I say that.
Right.
When you repeal a penalty or a fee, you basically are, this comes from the Congressional Budget Office, which he's the chairman of.
Right.
When you eliminate fees and penalties, you're eliminating revenue to the government.
Right.
So you got to, so what's the impact of that? So I'm going to share that with you in just a second. But the good news is this is proposing no penalties for employers and no penalties for individuals. But the act, when you read through it, most of it is about Medicaid expansion. I'm going to talk about two things that you think do not affect you. Individual health insurance, because this has a lot of verbiage about individual health insurance, and it has a lot of verbiage about Medicaid, but you don't think that affects the group health insurance,
right?
But it does,
right.
And I'm going to explain why in a second. But I won't get into Medicaid expansion. If you don't understand what that is, it's basically people who have low income get free health insurance, and they were going to expand that market, meaning people who make more money could get free health insurance. That was the expansion. The federal poverty level, I have a little table here. I don't know if you know what they are right now, but if for a family of one, the federal poverty level is $12,060. So if you are 350% of that, up to 400%, you would get some tax credits. So when the government says, I'm going to lower the cost of health insurance, it would come in the form of a tax credit, but only if you are in that 350 to 400% of poverty level. Now, if you're already trying to calculate that, I'll go ahead and tell you. 400% of 12,000 is 16,884. That's still pretty low income. And they would receive a tax credit. And so the promise is lowering health insurance premiums. That's how it would be delivered. So now think that through also. That's not a subsidy. That's not a subsidy.
I have a question though. So a tax credit, that means that's less money to the government. Who's paying the tax credit that's coming to the people? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, we are. All the owners of metal treatment businesses are doing.
So the people that are paying into the system are going to see an expansion of payments because they're increasing the amount of people that can get it for free.
That's correct. But that replaces the subsidies.
Right.
Subsidies were basically free money. And I might add, you first have to file taxes to get a tax credit.
Right.
So there are some things that a lot of people like about this because it does involve paying in taxes, it does involve filing taxes, and then therefore you could qualify for a tax credit. But they also predict, because there's a cause and effect. So if you do away with penalties and you tell individuals, well, you don't have, and employers, you don't have to offer health insurance and you don't have to buy it for individuals. Now you have a lot of people that will say, well, then I won't buy it at all. And so they're predicting, these are actuarial tables that are predicting this. Again, this came out July 20th, right, a few days ago. 15 million they're predicting in 2018 to become uninsured again. By the year of 2026, now think that through, 2026, That's 9 years from now. That's after 2 presidential terms. I guess they're expecting President Trump to maybe get a second term. I'm not sure, but all through this particular piece of legislation, there's predictions through 2026. So a lot of things can change in that period of time. So they're expecting by 2026, 22 million to be uninsured.
But that's not. But I want to be clear about that, because you hear, when you listen to the news, what you would believe is that that's 22 million people who were forced out of the system because of a law change. Whereas what we're hearing is that that's people who made an informed choice to walk away from the system. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
I mean,
because that's not what we hear on the news.
That's right. We see it every day. If you want to know, I mean, we have the boots on the street. I mean, we have hundreds of employers as clients. Many of them have 100 plus, multiple 100,000 plus employees. If the employer typically does not, and y'all already know this, but I'm gonna say it anyway, if you don't contribute much toward your health insurance and your employees are faced to pay a lot of money, they'll just go uninsured.
Right.
I mean, there's a population, and that population is, they're estimating to be 15 million uninsured. They also are basing this lower premium on a benefit cut. Now, this is important. Little note to make is they want to create a benchmark insurance plan that has an actuarial value of 70%. So your question, Tom, is, well, can the government lower the premium? Yes, a plan that only pays 70% of the benefit will cost less.
Right.
Than a plan that pays 90%.
Right.
So that's equivalent, by the way, if on the individual market. Some of you may not be familiar with the individual market, and we don't really work that market. We have a couple of people that do it, but we're primarily a large group. But that's equivalent to a silver plan on the exchanges. Here's an interesting, what I am recapping for you is paragraph after paragraph. So this is in sequential chronological order that I'm recapping this bill for you. So right after they say they're going to lower the premium, the next paragraph says that premiums will increase in the year of 2018. Now, if you think that through, it makes good sense. Why? Because
it's called mid-year elections.
Well, not really. When people don't buy health insurance because they don't have to, because now there's no penalty or fee.
Right.
Who are those people? They're people who don't think they need health insurance. They're healthy people. And who are the people that are buying health insurance? They're the sick people. They're the people that think they're going to use it. That's right. So that means the premium drops, but the claims increase, and therefore that causes premium increases.
Right.
And the cause and effect of that, they're estimating to be 20% next year, not in the group market, in the individual market. So this is definitely a cause and effect. But here's the important part. You may be thinking, well, I need to tune out of this thing because we're talking about individual health insurance. Well, hold on before you check out. In Florida, and I can only give you what's happening in Florida, but I promise you it's happening in your state too. Throughout the country, the state and federal exchanges started with Cigna, Coventry, United, some form of Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, and so on, and some of the state HMOs. Later, if you were tracking this, a lot of these insurance companies left the federal and state exchanges, right, because people who were never insured bought insurance, had that baby, had that surgery, and then canceled their policy.
Right.
So the insurance company paid out all this claims, but they received only a month or 2 or 3 of premium.
Right.
So that's the reason all the carriers left the exchanges. Well, what happened in Florida? That's the same thing that happened in Florida. But guess who was left in the state exchange in Florida? Now Humana's in it, but the primary carrier here in Florida, we're out of Jacksonville, where the home base of Florida Blue is. So Florida Blue is the main carrier. Well, Florida Blue on the individual side took over all of that business that United, Aetna, Cigna, and all those others had. So they are having a banner year in profit. Well, I'm in the group insurance business, and so are you. And so what happened in Florida, Florida Blue's group health insurance renewals are about 50% lower than they were last year because they're making so much money on the individual side.
Right.
So yes, two buckets of money, individual, Medicaid, but on the other side, there's group health insurance, but it's the same company. It's just like an MTI member.
Right.
You may have two different services. One of those services is down, but the other service is up. You're still making money.
Right.
Same thing for an insurance company. So that's what's driving. Individual policies do drive group rates.
Right.
Let me just give you a couple of other things that you'd be interested in. Is under this Better Care Reconciliation Act, by the year 2026, they're estimating the deductibles. How are they going to save you premium? That's the question we're addressing. The deductibles are going up to $13,000. Now, I don't know if you know what the maximum deductible is right now. It's $7,150 for an individual. And by 2026, they are predicting and calculating those deductibles for an individual. This is for an individual, not a family, to be $13,000. So yes, it'll cost less, but the benefits will be less too. You may be asking, what about the out-of-pocket? The out-of-pocket right now for a ACA plan is the same as the deductible. I don't know if a lot of you knew that. So the deductible, maximum deductible is $7,150, and the maximum out-of-pocket is also $7,150 right now. In 2026, they're estimating the max out-of-pocket to be $10,900. Now, I'm not quite sure why a deductible is higher than the max out-of-pocket,
right,
but I'm telling you, I'm positive what's in the Better Care Reconciliation Act. It seems like it should have been the other way around. We double-checked that, but we're absolutely positive. Again, you can Google it and check me. It's $13,000 deductible, $10,900. And then a lot of you are saying, well, I could give a flying flip about this because you're talking about things that are going to happen in 2026. And I could not agree with you even more. So I'm going to read you. This is kind of what the bill looks like. So this is a page right out of the bill. So here is a section. It's just that I've circled it so you can see it's not a very big section. This is at the very end of their legislative. It says, and here's the subtopic, uncertainty surrounding their estimates. And it says the ways in which the federal agencies, states, insurers, employers, individuals, doctors, hospitals, and other affected parties, how they would respond to the changes made by this legislation are all difficult to predict. So the estimates in this report are uncertain. So
what they should have put right there, Tim, is we don't know.
That's kind of
right.
So here's what you should do with that. So you just throw that's just about what that's
right. So you talked about the new benefit care that's going to replace the affordable, the American Health Care Act. So if and when that happens, what's going to happen to Obamacare? Now that's the next thing that we've been hearing. What's going to happen there?
Well, there are certain things in Obamacare that I don't think are going to go away. And what we did some time ago is when the American Health Care Act came out, I told you earlier, we did this flyer, but accompanying that flyer was a little small card. And then that card, on the front of it was the American Health Care Act. But then on the back of it, we showed people what's going to stay in place. Now, this new improved legislation still is promising the same types of things that are in Obamacare. So these things would stay in place, probably. Let me just read them off to you real fast. The guarantee issue, guarantee renewal,
right,
that'll be there. The private market would still be there. Buying from carriers within state. By the way, the new improved version did not have crossing state lines. It may be in there, but it wasn't in the document that they've released so far. No limit on lifetime maximums. The expanded annual dollar amounts. That means that they've increased the amounts per certain benefits.
Gotcha.
So if you have like a physical therapy, they increase the limits on that. Preventive services, 100%.
Right.
High risk pools, sending very, very sick people to high risk pools. The exchanges would continue, but they have to be financially self-sufficient. Pre-existing conditions, that's a big one for everybody, would stay in. No gender rating. You know, long time ago, there used to be female rates, male rates. Right now it's unisex, so it would stay that way. And they would still give the rebates. So the insurance company has to still run fairly lean, 80% for small group, 85% for large group. If they don't use that much of the premium toward claims, they have to rebate money. And then they would still insure the dependents up to age 26. So those things would probably still stay in place, Tom.
So now let's get down to where people in this car are probably wanting to get to, and after hearing that's the big picture, that's in the cloud. Now let's get down on the ground and talk about, so for the employers and the benefits people listening to this, what are kind of the top 5 things they as employers or people insuring people should do to lower their cost of healthcare? What can they do to help impact on their side of the equation?
Well, you know, I'm going to tie into that question because I'm not sure who's on the video, but I know that the general demographics of MTI folks, and I've met you guys a bunch of times, you know, are 40, 50, 60 employees. Some of them are over 100. Some of them are large companies. But the majority, correct me if I'm wrong, am I right on that, Tom? The majority of them are like 40 to 60.
We have an average of about 40 people per plant. There's a lot of 10s and 20s, but there's a lot of 60s and 70s and a few hundreds. So 40 is about the middle ground, though.
Okay. So let me tell you a few things. One is, I don't know if you know this, but the trend across the country in agency owners, because I'm an agency owner, we're about a 30-year-old firm, they're selling their business. I mean, this is getting too complicated. It's too much to keep up with. Compliance audits, IRS reporting, wellness. Now there's the big thing going on in wellness. Now we're in the HR business, human resource, stuff like that. So a lot of smaller agencies just can't keep up with all of this. So they're selling out and they're retiring. I don't know if you know this. I wish I had a proposal. I should have grabbed one and shown you one. I actually have 5 agency proposals for big agencies like Aon, Brown & Brown, Willis, Towers, Marsh McLennan, those kind of folks wanting to buy our agency. And what they do, I don't mind sharing this with you. They give you a big check for your book of business. And we have, you know, hundreds of clients. So you get this big giant check and you retire. However, you can't walk away. All of these proposals have a minimum of 3 years up to 7 years. Most of them are 3 to 5. Some of them are 7, that the owner, like Tim Owen with Owen Associates, would have to stick around. Well, the problem with that, and it's good news for us because we're not selling, by the way, we created a mentor protege program where young people come in and take over our business and they work into equity ownership. 3 years retirement, 3 years of tenure and performance, 5 years they get profit share, 10 years they actually get stock ownership. My end becomes their future. I think it's an awesome plan really for any business. And but that owner has to be owned or around for 3 to 5 years. Well, the problem with that is mentally they have checked out.
Correct.
They're not prospecting anymore. So I would say one thing is you need to be working with a broker that is really up to speed, and you need to find out if maybe they have sold their agency, because that is going to be a big play. The second thing I would tell you is to be able to control your claims. Now, I already know when I say that, because we have a bunch of groups that are under 100 employees, that you don't get claim reports, okay? So, but I'm going to tell you that, remember what I said at the beginning, health insurance is expensive because health care is expensive. Well, what's happening in your group? What's happening with your spouses and your children in your group? You have no idea because you don't have any claim reports.
Right.
So what could you do to get claim reports? Because you can't manage what you can't see, and you have to be able to know what's going on. Because we also have another motto in our business is healthy people file less claims, and it's just true. So there's which takes me to the third thing is consider alternate funding. Now, a lot of you think, well, I'm only 40 employees or only 20 employees or only 70 employees, and I'm too small to be self-funded.
Right.
So let me make you aware of a a new product, and the product is called alternate funding, and it's a hybrid of self-funding and fully insured. But the reason it's called level funding is because 99% of you have a fully insured product right now, meaning you pay the same amount of premium every single month, meaning it's level. And but the beauty of this new product is it doesn't cost more than your fully insured product. But if your claims are good, and they have to give you claim reports now because you're a smaller group and you have this new product. Aetna, by the way, if Aetna is in your area, does an awesome job in this area. Cigna does an awesome job in this area. Brand new product line that they have out, and probably about 7 other insurance companies that maybe haven't heard about. For an example, one is Trustmark. They do this alternate funding product. Well, if your claims are good, you as the employer keep the surplus. That's a killer deal.
That is a real good deal.
And you get claim reports. So now you can see what's happening. You can educate your employees, which takes me to the next thing you need to be doing is as soon as an employee gets cancer, and that what I'm fixing to tell you is very important. We call it consumer advocacy or employee engagement. It's just teaching your employees how to navigate the medical system. Let's say you think you have cancer, or you think you need surgery, and you need an MRI. Well, most of your employees know I need an MRI, and I got to stay in network in order for it to pay a pretty decent benefit. Well, here's the problem, especially if you're on one of those level funding plans. There might be 3 facilities, an ambulatory surgical center, a standalone center. Well, their MRI might cost $400. Or the one at Mayo or the one at your local hospital could cost $1,200 to $2,000. But they're in network, and that's all your employee knows. So if you can teach the employees how to navigate the medical system, well, now we're back to the broker. That's the broker's job. That's why I'm telling you got to have a broker who's engaged and teach these employees how to navigate. They can control claim costs, and you get the refund of those lower claims. You are now controlling the cost of health care, which controls the cost of health premium. So I hope that's making some sense there.
Yeah.
And then I'd recommend technology. If you're over 50 employees in the United States, whether you like it or not, you have to do IRS reporting, and there are certain compliance things that you need to keep up with. That's 50 full-time employees, okay? FTEs, we call them, full-time eligible employees. You need to be doing these reporting and compliance. Well, there's technology programs out there that agents should be using. We use one, and it's a 2-page executive report that you should be getting, and it's either green, red, or orange. If it's green, you're compliant. If it's red, you're not, and that's the broker's job to help you get compliant. And if it's orange, that means you have a deadline coming up that you need to meet to become compliant. Now, there's about 30 pages that support those 2 executive pages, but you need to be seeing something, I think, or your broker needs to be showing you something. You are compliant, and there's technology now to do these compliance audits, HR toolboxes, online enrollment, all of those things your agent should be paying for. And so I would get your agent to pay for those things. I would have those services. You can now control claims, and now there's hope of lower premium.
So let me ask you a big question.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about a number of different HR issues, but what about PEOs, professional employer arrangements? I mean, how do they? That wasn't something we discussed earlier, but how do they fall into the picture? What's your views on those? I know some of our members probably are getting quotes from those.
Sure. The PEO can be a good option. The PEO is an insurance agency. They are a competitor to your broker. They're a competitor to me.
Right.
In fact, years ago, all that we used to do were PEOs. Those were our clients. Well, one day they realized, wow, I can become my own insurance agent, and I'll just do that. I'll open up my own insurance agency, and that's what they've done. The ADPs, the Paychecks of the world, Paycor. There are a lot of really good ones out there. Another good one that we like is, I'll think of their name in a minute, but they're kind of a new emerging PEO that's out there. But they can be good because they have risk pools. And so they're very similar to an association health plan, which if we have time, we can talk about for a moment. But They are basically taking a lot of small businesses, most of them do business with smaller companies, pool them together, and now that risk pool is 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 employees, and then you have the law of average numbers in that risk pool giving you hopefully better claims, therefore better. So I would get a quote from them. I want to give you a heads up on a PEO. Don't do PEOs. This is important when I'm fixed to tell you this, big money saver. So if you're doing something else, you want to pay attention to this one. Don't do business with a PEO that is charging you a percentage of your payroll to cut checks for you. A payroll check, whether it has $500 on it or $5,000 on it, it's a payroll check. So all PEOs should be charging you a per check basis because they're earning commission on the health insurance and all the other stuff. You don't want to be having them double dip and make big money off of you.
Yeah,
it's a good alternative.
Paying $500 to cut a $5,000 check is not a good deal.
That's right.
So hey,
that's right.
So you mentioned wellness. That's probably, would you say that's one of the largest areas that employers could have an effective plan that can have a big impact on their healthcare?
Wellness is probably, technology and wellness is our two fastest growing departments. We are on the 4th floor of a downtown building. We occupy the whole 4th floor. We're about to take over the 2nd floor, and it's because of technology. We're using technology for online enrollment, claim mitigation, which is kind of an analytics of wellness, and our wellness department. Those are our growing departments. And the cases that we're taking over, to be candid with you, are from brokers that have sold. A lot of brokers are selling, so they're not keeping up with this stuff. So if you go back to the level funding that I was talking about, so I'm an employer with 40 employees. What do? I would look at some alternate funding quotes. And Tom, as I promise you and you require of me, is to tell you everything, totally transparent, the kind of stuff that maybe other brokers might not tell you. Your broker makes less on a level funded product than they do on a fully insured. I mean, it's just true.
Right.
And so sometimes, I'm not saying people are doing anything wrong, okay? But we all of us brokers should be doing what's in the best interest of our client, not what's in the best interest of my bottom line. And so the goal is to work for you. So you need to be seeing that level funded, that alternate funding quote. Again, it doesn't cost any more than fully insured, but the agent does make a little less commission. But remember, now you're getting claim reports.
Right.
Now you can do consumer education. Now you can do employee awareness, which, by the way, all those meetings your broker should be doing for you. And now, if you implement wellness initiatives, it will lower your claims and therefore lower your cost. But I want to give you a hot tip on a easy kind of autopilot wellness program. In fact, it's so effective, Florida Blue, who has 9,000 employees, has this one plan, and it can work for a 40-life group who's alternate funding. Here's how it works. You could create a HSA or an HRA. Most of you don't like HSAs. Most of your employees don't like HSAs. So I'm going to talk about health reimbursement arrangements on a level funded program. So here's how it works. Real simple. You buy a high deductible health insurance plan. Well, we know the highest deductible right now is $7,100. And your out of pocket can be $7,100 too. That's your max out of pocket for an individual.
Right. So
the moment you do that, your employee's going to say, "What are you thinking? Why would you?" Because we had a $2,000 deductible and a $4,000 out of pocket. Why would you buy $7,000? Well, hold on, employee. If this employee will do a biometric screening, which is the indicator of what we call a metabolic syndrome, blood pressure, cholesterol, waist, height, weight, BMI, those types of things. So it's a biometric screening, and the analytics of that is done by the broker. And now you know the status. You as an employer cannot know the details of that biometric screening, but you can know the aggregate or the summary of those. We've got this many people with a BMI over 30. We've got this many cholesterol problems, this many tobacco users, this many blood pressure problems, and so forth. And you hold an employee meeting and say, if you will get your BMI down, if you will engage, because we have a company, because we have vendors that come in and do this. Again, the broker pays for that. And now if it's a wellness company, sometimes the employer pays for that and there's not enough commission to pay for all of this. But then the employee now engages in wellness initiatives. You will reimburse their out of pocket in the event that they have an MRI, a surgery, or a hospitalization. But follow me close on this. If I'm an employee, we had an employee, real life story, his name was Travis. We had an employee, he had a 42 waist. He had chronic back problems. He was about to have chronic back surgery. This is probably going to be too much information for you, but you'll never meet him and you don't know his last name. He was also about to have cosmetic surgery because his chest didn't look, I'll just say it that way, his chest didn't look the way he wanted it to look. Travis went in 7 months from a 42 waist to a 32 waist.
Wow.
I don't know how much weight he lost, but you can imagine how much he would have lost. He no longer needed the chronic back surgery. He no longer needed the cosmetic surgery. The medication he was taking for his back was gone, and he was in great shape. So Travis quit filing health insurance claims, and there was nothing to reimburse. So even though you're promising a reimbursement of a high out of pocket, the odds of filing a claim, this is for the people who improve, are very, very slim.
Yeah.
Healthy people file less claims. So that, and so wellness initiatives, and it affects them financially.
Right.
So if you don't want to get involved in wellness, then keep your $7,150 out of pocket.
Right.
And it's that responsibility is on them, not on the employer.
Right. So as we turn towards looking towards the end here, so did you talk about HR 1101, the Small Business Fairness Act yet, or was that in the?
No, we haven't talked about that.
So what is that? You had mentioned that to me in a prior conversation. What is that? What is that about?
The HR 111 is known as the Small Business Health Fairness Act. In other words, it talks about association health plans. This is something I think MTI should look at. And I can come to some event where you guys are. We can distribute some more information on it. You don't have to use us to do it. Anybody can do it. But basically, the MTI members would come together. You could keep your current agent. The person putting it together can share commissions with the current agent. So it's not like you're firing your current agent. So right off the bat, I want to just throw that out there.
Right.
But then you can also cross state lines. You now are not a 40 life group. You're now a 1,000 life group. You have to have 1,000 lives to do the association plan and have some of the incentives of that. You now are getting claim reports. You now have technology platforms for claim analytics, wellness programs, all of the things that the big groups have.
Right.
Their commission being paid can even be shared as non-membership revenue. Now, if you're sharing it with two agents, there's not a whole lot to share with the association,
right?
But it can be good revenue even for the association. And now the beauty of this is you guys can communicate with each other because it's a risk pool that you know each other.
Right.
The risk pool that you're part of right now, you have no idea who's in it.
Right.
Every group that's under 100 lives, your group, our group, regionally, you're part of a risk pool, but you're mixed in with electricians and plumbers and accountants and attorneys. And I mean, it's a very diverse risk pool.
Right.
If you create your own risk pool and you're communicating, collaborating, and working and educating each other in that same risk pool, now you have continuity and you can all move in the same direction.
Right.
So, and there's incentives now for the government or from the government for taxes, cost, and capabilities that you don't have on your own as a 40 life group. So I can send you, Tom, a white paper on that, and then you can distribute that to your members. It's very factual, and it kind of explains the benefits of it.
Right.
And you guys can kick it around as an association and see if it's something that people might have interest in. And you can get a quote on it before you ever change.
Right.
So it's not like you've changed into something that you go into it unaware. You'll know what you're going into it before you cancel what you currently have.
Right. Right. Well, I would love to see some more information on that. We can put that out to our members. But one last question I'd like to ask you before we end the program. So everyone out there is represented by an agent. tradition in the healthcare process. So what are some of the top things, knowing what you know from the top down to the bottom? You've been doing this many years. What are some of the things our members should be asking their agents? Because I mean, there's a lot of agents that are very capable, but there's some that aren't as capable. And so what should be some questions and level of service that they should be demanding from their agent to take care of this? This is probably one of their top 3 costs on their balance, on their income statement. Take someone very serious to help them move that needle down. So what should they be asking their agent to do for them?
So let me give you some just off the top of my head. One is, have you ever thought of selling your agency, or have you done it? 2 is I would ask them about level funding. What do you know about level funding? Or alternate funding is another word for that. That's the hybrid of fully insured and self-funding. Ask them, if I were to go level funded or use alternate funding, would I get claim reports? And I'll guarantee you the answer to that is yes. So you kind of want to see if they know about those things. I probably wouldn't ask them if they get paid less commission, but you could. Depends on how transparent your relationship is. How does that affect you, your commission, and what you earn if I went to level funding and so forth? And then I would ask them about what do you think I could do to lower my health insurance premium cost? And it definitely is wellness initiatives. If you're over 50 employees, I would ask them about compliance. What can you do to help me know for sure that I'm compliant? And the answer is do a compliance audit. There should be some technology tool for compliance. Many of you who have 40 or 50 or 60 or even or under 100 employees may not have a human resource manager. Sometimes you're wearing 2 hats. I've met some owners, I think, are husband and wife teams and things like that. A great tool out there, if you aren't using it, is called HR 360. You might ask your agent, what tool? And by the way, there's several of them out there. That's a very good tool. It's very inexpensive, and honestly, your broker should be paying for that for you.
Right.
But you might ask about an HR tool that can help you do employee handbooklets. They have 500 plus forms that are free. You can brand them and make them look like your own. You can do benefit booklets. You can even do salary benchmarking, hiring questions, termination papers and forms, and it's an entire toolbox, including health reform, and it's constantly updated. And HR 360 has 7 ERISA attorneys on staff, and it's a very inexpensive alternative. It's a really quality HR tool, but definitely be asking about compliance and those kind of tools. And then if you think you're not large enough for online enrollment, I would ask about online enrollment. I do want to warn you about online enrollment. We just added a new platform to ours. We have 3 different platforms for different needs and different sizes of groups.
Right.
But all of these platforms, you want to vet that they have secure systems. A lot of these online enrollment companies have pretty websites.
Right.
It's very attractive, but they're not secure, and they don't have redundancy. They don't have disaster recovery, and they don't have security.
Right.
So you really want to make sure. I mean, they're just a couple of notches above working out of their garage.
Right.
So you want to be really careful about those. Those are kind of the main things I think groups of your size or average your size should be asking about.
Okay. Anything for those that are over 100 lives? Anything you want to say before we into those that are over 100? We've got a handful of those.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could say anything to a group over 100, there are statutes out there that you can get claim reports. So if you have a carrier telling you claim reports are not available to you, you can get them. Because what I want to tell you, if you're 100 lives and above, and this really applies to smaller groups, if you become in the level funded or alternate funding, is data. You need data. That's how you run your business. That's how you make decisions. That's how you analyze. You get a profit and loss statement. You make a marketing plan. All of that is based on data. And you can, again, and I know I'm being redundant, you can't manage it unless you see it. So there are awesome claim analytic tools that brokers can buy. They don't have to invent it, but they need to pay for it. And these, if you pay for it, claim analytics should be running you somewhere between $1 per employee per month, no more than that. And if you do have claim analytics, there could be a fee. It's called an electronic data information feed, an EDI feed, that you might have to pay a fee to hook up to your insurance company to get the claim feed. And those run somewhere, or should run somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000 a year. And if there's a year per product, so if the agent's making enough commission, the agent simply pays for it. That's what we do.
Right.
And but you need data, and you need to analyze that data. And only one more thing for those large groups. What are your claims? That's data. Here's the second thing. What does it mean to you? Well, this is what happened. Well, what does that mean to our group? Number 3, what are you going to do about it so that you can lower it? Your agent should have a strategy and a clear plan of what happened, what does it mean to you, and what can you do to lower it. And that's what the larger group should definitely. And then now you're controlling your costs. And if you can control your claims, you can control your costs.
Boy, it's changed, right? Long ways from here's your quote, I'll see you next renewal.
Well, in Florida, back in the days, Tom, when you and I met, we had almost 70 insurance companies selling health insurance. And now we have 8.
That's crazy.
Times have changed.
Wait, Tim, thank you so much for your time today. I hope members got a lot out of this today. This is a big issue for many of our members with how much they pay. Like to say, you're not just strong, you're MTI strong. I'll see you next time on August 22nd, where we'll feature ITR and our economic forecast for the next 3 years. So don't miss that on August 27th. You'll be getting an email from us. So Tim, thank you very much. Members, have a great day, and thank you for being at Heat Treat Tuesday.
Thanks. Bye.